Hello, welcome back. This is week 16. Today is July 16th. We are on our 115th day since we started our project. I'll give you an update of what we've been doing, what we're going to plan to do, what we plan to do, and our confidence level, etc. So let's go on with the video. Rough recap if you are new to this video. We are recording our progress as a startup to document so that we can also reflect on ourselves, but also that we can share experience of how it is to become a startup and how the daily struggles are. And we want to record as much as that possible. We also want to do this to prove the point that unicorn startups are reproducible. So that's the aim of the video. So far, what we've done on our progress, we originally were a startup focusing on solving the problem of entry-level jobs. So what we mean by that is people who are fresh out of college, secondary, new to the labor force, looking for jobs, and businesses such as restaurants, warehouses, these businesses are hiring these new labor forces. But there seems to be a mismatch. We're trying to solve that originally. But because it was very competitive, also the willingness to pay seemed to be quite low, we have shifted off to focus more on professionals. So professionals, we haven't really defined which area yet, but the health profession area, such as physicians and nurses, and also trades seem to be very interesting. Reason why that is that there is a high demand in these professions, but there's not enough supply. So there's already a problem, huge problem, and there seems to be a certain level of willingness to pay for the businesses who are trying to hire those professions. I believe that there's a higher chance of making a business out of this, given this sort of environment. Last week I mentioned that we had unfortunately not been able to schedule team meetings for 2 weeks or so. Finally, we're getting back on track. This week I had a catch up with April. She did 2 interviews, and also she found a few interesting solutions, alternatives. You can even say competitors in this space. So the 2 nurses she's interviewed had left the traditional working environment, such as working in hospitals and clinics. So they become travel nurses. And what they mentioned about their pain was there was definitely some pain around admin work, paperwork. But the 2 major points that both of the nurses pointed out was understaffing and burnout. Those were the main points that they mentioned prior to the admin work, paperwork that we think was quite a burden, quite a pain. I understand that these 2 nurses were in the US, but I understand this applies not just in the US, in Canada, probably in other countries as well. So I guess this is a very universal problem that we're facing. I've heard this in Japan as well. So there's not enough nurses in hospital clinics. Because of that, the environment is very demanding, and therefore a lot of people burn out, although they love their job. So after these 2 nurses left their traditional working environment, they became travel nurses. They got their jobs through agents. So agents seem to be playing a big role on finding jobs if you leave the traditional setting. So we want to explore more about how many agents are there, how do nurses choose which agent to go with, how do agents find these nurses or other labor forces, other talent that they can support and make business out of that. We want to understand more about the business of agents and agencies. Also, during the discussion with April, she had a very interesting point that there were services that provide programmers to companies. So these services would provide a training program for somebody who was not a programmer or coder yet to go through their course, their program, and to reach a certain level of a programmer, coder, and eventually have a higher potential to be hired by tech companies. So some of the services that she mentioned were course careers, career karma, and also flat iron. Because there's a high demand in coders, programmers, IT engineers, that companies would fund these programs. So, for example, IBM has their own course available. People would have to pay for access to these online courses, but eventually IBM will have this potential pool of talent that they can access if necessary. The whole reason why I guess that IBM is providing these online courses is to have the reach to these talented or potential engineers. So they have a pool, they have a funnel created that they can own, they have more control over. So for IT engineers and coders, programmers, all the courses can be done online. Whereas if we try to apply this model to nurses or other health professions, not all of the course material, the training necessary can be done online, of course. Nurses have to go into clinics and actually interact with patients, actually work with physical elements to be able to perform their service. So they need to actually go to clinics. It seems, at least in Canada, that at the end of their 2-year or so training, they would actually buddy up with a already professional nurse and to shadow what the nurse does and be able to operate and provide the service with the supervisory of that nurse that they are budding with. They need to work and train in an actual physical environment. That will be one of the differences of IT engineers training programs and nurses or even physicians training programs. I'm sure there are other elements as well. The government or government-related organizations would have to certify these people. So there will be certain criteria that need to be met. We need to be aware of that as well. We think this would be interesting because, again, there's a high demand in nurses. There's a shortage of nurses in general. And all on top of that, there's a lot of burnout. So a lot of people are leaving the working force. The labor force is short-lived. Also, there's an aging problem that the bulk of nurses are coming to the point that they're getting too old to be able to continue the work. So all together, there's a very severe shortage in nurses. So if we can provide a pipeline to provide nurses to these hospital clinics, I think a lot of clinics, hospitals would be interested and maybe even willing to upfront pay for such a service. So we will see if that is true and how we can create this model. We need to verify that whether these hospitals and clinics are actually willing to invest in such a service, and also we ourselves need to prove that this business model is sustainable. So that's our progress. We're going to talk to more nurses, going to talk to clinics and hospitals, and going to do more research on these IT services. Course careers, career karma, and flat iron. We want to understand more about their model, what goes well, what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, maybe there's some room of improvement, and also how can we apply this to not an IT environment, but into health professions. Confidence level wise, thanks to April, I think we're getting onto something. Confidence level, I think we are in 30-40%. We need to do more research and understand if our sort of excitement will actually materialize. But I think we're getting on track of finding something that's really interesting. So great, I was able to talk to April. We're going to have a team meeting finally after 3 weeks or so next week. We're looking forward to talking to Josh and Ted on a more regular basis on catching up what they've done as well. So that's it for this week. Thank you for watching this video to the very end. I will be producing these videos weekly. So if you're interested in watching our progress, please subscribe to our channel. Also, if you can give a like, and if you have any comments of what we should do or any experience that you've had in this area that you can share, or if you're interested in joining this project like April did, you can write a comment in this video or reach out to me on Twitter or on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to talk to you. So thank you very much and see you next week. Bye.